Hi, this is Mighty CS Man. I have a complete curriculum on the Intro to Java Programming through the Building Java Programs book and the accompanying Practice It website. You see my week 1 orientation video for how you can get set up with Practice It and an online version of the book. So this week we're dealing with Chapter 6, which is about file input-output, and we're looking at exercise 6.2 even numbers. So we are supposed to accept a scanner, which is a common thing in Practice It. So I'll go ahead and give you the header. The scanner is passed into us, and the reason why is because Practice It is going to be passing in a particular string. So we're going to take the scanner as input, and we're going to read a bunch of integers, and then we're supposed to calculate the sum, the number of integers, and the percentage even. So I'm going to go through what the pseudocode for this should look like, and then you're going to have to do the actual code on your own. So in Chapter 5, we were dealing with indefinite loops, and this is definitely an indefinite loop. We don't know how many numbers they're going to be, so instead of a for loop, we're going to use a while loop. And you hopefully have learned that whenever you're dealing with file input, the form of these things is generally going to be while something, and then you're going to have the reading here. That's different than user input from the console, which would typically be a do while, and that's because here we're in the while we're typically going to be checking while the scanner has some type of input. So there's a bunch of scanner functions that start with has next, has next int, has next double, has next line, and you're going to use one of those on the scanner to check. And if it doesn't have one, so for example, if I said has next int and then there was a double at the front, it would fail, and you're not supposed to do anything in here. So that's why we put the while up front. So what's going to be inside here? So if there is something, then we want to read the number, and then we want to process the number. And so to read the number, there's a number of scanner functions. Instead of the has variants, we want the next, next int, next line, next double variants. That's actually going to read it. And then to process it, you're going to need to remember have the count here, and you're going to need a running total for the sum. So you're probably going to want to define those outside the loop, and then define them, and then process them inside the loop. So now when we get down here, now we just want to print the results. And I will do a little bit of code here. Let me just put false here just so we can actually run the code. Printing results. So I'm going to just, the trick here is that we want a very particular format here. So if I do is system.out.println and I give it, let's say 2/3, right? 2 divided by 3. Let's just run that and see what happens. Let's see, maybe I can trick it with something else. 2 equals 2. Nope, it's not going to do that. I'm going to have to comment this out then, I guess. Let's just comment this whole section out here. All right, just so we can get down to here. So if you just do the println, I just need to get rid of, I'll just get rid of this comment. The problem is I don't want to get rid of the whole entire comment so you can see it. I'm just going to get rid of those. All right, so your output is 0, and that's because it's an integer. Let's try 2.0. So it prints out 0.666666. What we want is 66.67%, right? So first of all, let's start out by multiplying by 100. All right, that's going to give us 66.666, right? But what we really want to do is we want to truncate it after 2 digits. So to do that, if you think back to chapter 4, in section 4.3 of text processing, they actually teach you about the printf function. Printf comes from the C language, and printf lets you specify the formatting. So if I print %d, that's actually going to print an integer. Ooh, that's a lot of complaints, but it didn't like that because it's a long. But here, okay, so it actually prints a decimal here. But if you look at the table in chapter 4, table 4.6, you will see that what we actually want is %.2f, and then because we're inside quotes, you're going to need 2 of those. So the table gives you a whole bunch of different things. The F means floating point number. The point means that we're actually, instead of being whole floating point numbers, we're doing fractional floating point numbers. The 2 means we're rounding to the hundredths. You just have to look at the table and get familiar with it. And again, the reason why I'm putting the double % there is because what I want to do is actually I want to print %. Okay, so let's just try looking at this. Okay, still we want a floating point now, so I actually have to convert to 2.0. Okay, so now it actually printed the right format, 66.67%. Okay, so you're going to have to do the rest yourself. You're going to have to get rid of that. You're going to have to scan the input while it's got some type of number. Okay, what kind of numbers? What are they supposed to be? Are they supposed to be strings? Are they supposed to be integers? Or supposed to be floating point? Okay, so while the scanner, the input dot has something, you're going to read that number. Okay, then you're going to process the number by calculating, incrementing the total, incrementing a count. Okay, and then down here you can take that total divided by the count. Actually, well, you have to have a separate one for whether it's even or not. Okay, how do you determine if something is even? Remember our good friend mod? Mod 2 is going to tell you whether it's even or not. If mod 2 equals 0, then it's even. Okay, so you have a count of even. So you're going to have as the numerator, it's going to be the number of even numbers. The denominator is going to be the total number, and you're going to have to multiply that by 100. And you got to be careful in this thing here to make sure that you don't end up doing integer math, right? Because if you have integer divided by integer, that's going to be an integer. So you actually have to convert to a double. The other way I could do this is I could force this to be a double. And what that's going to do is it's going to convert that 2 into a double. So that did, even though it didn't pass the full test, it did actually convert it to a double in order to do that. All right, so that's really the only tricky part of this is doing that bit. So I'm not gonna. That's where I'm gonna leave the code. But I just want to take another look at this problem. So what did we learn from this problem? What is this problem about? This problem is about using scanner look ahead. Okay, which isn't really part of this chapter. But what is part of this chapter is that you're reading it from an input file. It's a pretty small part of this problem, really, because they're already giving you the scanner input. Ideally, they should have really had you open up a new file with a file name or something like that. And then there's a little bit of processing here to make sure whether things are even or not. And really, the only tricky part is this, making sure that you've got the right output format. But that's actually a very important part of this chapter, because in the homework that I give to my students, you need to actually be able to print out stuff to a file, and you oftentimes want a specific format for that. So this is a good thing to learn. So if you have found this useful, please like and subscribe.